Welcome back, roofers, to another episode of the Roofing Webmasters podcast. My name is Madison.
I'm Amberlyn.
And we're here to talk about a different subject than we might normally discuss. We are attempting today to humanize Google.
How could that be possible? How can one humanize Google?
How can one take the corporate gelatinous blob of technology that Google seems to be and break it down to a business of individuals, thousands of individuals, mind you.
Oh yes, lots.
Well, we're going to try today. And more importantly, we're going to show you how doing so helps you plan ahead and better adjust your SEO strategy for the future. So we're going to be covering 4 key points today. Number 1 of which, Google wants to be liked.
They want to be popular.
This is the most High School Musical we're going to get with our 4 points. But in seriousness, though, Google wants people to enjoy using its services, and it wants people to have a positive opinion of the brand.
Right. They want brand recognition, as any company does.
Which means they're going to work hard to get people to recognize their services and use their products as much as possible. Now, that creates some trouble sometimes, as we'll get into later on.
Right.
However, it does open up some opportunities for businesses, including roofers. For instance, sometimes Google has a product like GMB that experiences a glitch. And before it can be updated, there are some problems and some ways sometimes to get around that. Now, you can go through the normal channel,
sending them a message on the contact form and hoping for the best.
And wait for weeks, potentially a month before you get a response.
Too long.
And possibly not even the problem resolved. On the other hand, you can leverage Google's desire to be liked, to be popular, and go onto a public forum like Twitter or Reddit and post your problem there. Now, what happens when people do that?
Well, then everyone sees the problem, Madison, and Google goes, oh no, and they try to resolve it as quickly as possible.
Yes, it is amazing how quickly Google will respond sometimes on Twitter, especially, and even on Reddit sometimes. We've seen instances and heard about instances where a company talked about a problem and a representative of Google gets back to them within hours, maybe even minutes, with resources that they can use to try to resolve the problem.
Which is way quicker than like a month.
Yes, it's better than waiting for weeks for a problem that's affecting a significant portion of your local search traffic. So in summary, when you want to leverage Google wanting to be liked, go public and go onto Twitter, go onto Reddit. You can get faster correspondence that way. Now that leads us into point number 2.
And that is that Google has a moral code that it follows. They want you to adhere to.
Yes, Google has a way of doing business that they like other businesses to adhere to. And most of the time you'll hear about content. And that's keep making great content, keep doing this.
Do what you're doing.
Yes. And for the most part, it's great to listen to Google. It makes things a lot easier. For instance, if you try to do something that goes against Google's code of content, of good content, maybe something that might be considered deceptive or shady, there's a very, very real chance that you could receive a manual penalty, which is the worst form of penalty you can receive.
Right. It's very scary when that happens.
Yeah. We had a story the other day. It was actually, they're now a client of ours, and Jason and Nolan told me about this.
Oh.
This client, before they were a client, they were making over $5 million a year in roofing projects, and they accidentally did a faux pas.
Oh no.
With reviews. They weren't aware that it was a bad thing to do. It was in good faith, but when Google heard about it, they received a manual penalty, and their GMB disappeared overnight.
Oh my God.
Local search traffic plummeted, And that year they lost at least, I think it was 66% of their business in the form of over $3 million in losses.
That's a huge
Lost
chunk.
revenue.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, maybe you're not running that type of traffic or that type of revenue. That is a serious chunk of cheese to lose for your business.
For sure.
Yeah.
But that's why it's so important to try to adhere to that code, because as the same hat as they'll go ahead and give you manual penalties, they will also reward you for going ahead and doing things that they like to see, such as quality, authoritative link building or solid content.
Absolutely. Now, there are even some things that aren't considered deceptive, like black hat practices. There are things that might be considered more in the gray zone that Google, they might frown upon. It doesn't really line up, it doesn't jive with their code. And as a result, they work on ways to eventually diminish the returns that those activities provide or negate them entirely.
Oh, no.
Now, that might be a gimmick. And years ago, it was link stuffing or link purchasing. It might be something different today. There might be some sort of loophole that you might try to get through, or a marketing company might try to get through. And that's just not a good idea for your long-term strategy. You want to focus on those things that line up with Google's moral code/code of content. So, takeaways there, what would you say, Kimberly?
Takeaways there is that if you don't put everything on one thing for Google, but try to adhere to the things that you know are going to work well. So, for example, like we said, good content and quality link building, good authority between you and Google itself.
Focus on doing what Google says, and you can worry about the rest later.
Laters.
Yes. That brings us to point number 3, which is
that Google is a mess sometimes.
It can really be a mess sometimes.
People in general can be a mess, but when it comes to business, sometimes that's not the best thing. Google, however, they've got a lot going on. They've got a lot of people in their employ, and they've got updates and tools and all these things they got to focus on. So sometimes things can get a little bit hairy.
Yeah. Like any business, Google tries to find its way and serve its customers as best as it can. However, not every business is a multinational, multi-billion-dollar organization that dominates our everyday lives.
Oh, yeah.
So when Google has a mess, it's a mess for everyone, and their dog and their mother and their mother's dog. So there are ways that we can address this issue, and we have to give Google some slack. They do a lot of work to try to improve their efforts and their online presence. But there are some things that we need to do as well to try to Google harden our online business assets,
for sure,
such as our website.
Oh, yes, for certain. And that's mostly in the case of certain updates. Now, as we stated before, updates can be really beneficial, but sometimes they can really break things. And Google, being a mess, can't always let you know exactly what's going to happen with that. So if you have one gimmick that you're focusing on, for example, link building, but there are lots of links, and Google decides we don't like that so much, and that's in their update, it can break everything. So it's important to really sort of branch out. Make sure you have a well-rounded strategy so that you can cope with anything that comes its way or your way.
Yes, Google is a massive force of trial and error, and every time they have a trial, there tends to be at least a small amount of error in there, and they will fix that eventually, but your business could feel the repercussions while they are working on fixing that.
For sure.
So if you want to make sure, like Amberlyn was saying, that your business doesn't get hit really hard, don't gamble on a gimmick. So don't focus on explicitly link building. Don't focus entirely on getting hundreds and hundreds of reviews if you think that's going to give yourself some juice, which it's great.
Yeah, for sure.
But
it's definitely good.
Yeah, don't just do that. If you want to have good results for yourself consistently and maybe even benefit from these Google Core updates, generalize your SEO strategy. Focus on covering all your bases: website, GMB, reviews, citations from Yelp and all the Better Business Bureau and all the other major brands out there. If you cover all those bases, you're going to do much better when the next Google Core Update comes. And that's on a regular basis. So that's important. So in conclusion, like we said, don't gamble on an SEO gimmick.
Nope.
Yes. Now that leads us into our last point, and probably the most humanizing point, actually, I would say, of our discussion. Google has a boss.
Gasp.
Yes. Like any business, Google has a boss, and that boss's name is shareholders.
Shareholders. Very important.
Yes. Google is driven by a desire to make money and distribute that money to its shareholders. And as a result, it won't always be able to do, I say it, Google, the group of people, won't always be able to do the things that they want to do to maximize and better their user experience. That includes both the consumer and businesses that rely on Google search for their business. Now, there are some ways that we can better understand Google and we can learn from them. One of those might be, if they're trying to make money, let's focus on areas where Google wants to focus its attention, and we can invest more time and energy in understanding those. Mm-hmm. For instance, what does Google get a lot of its money from?
Probably PPC ads.
Mm-hmm.
The ones at the top of the page every time you search.
Mm-hmm. Google gets 60 to 70% of its revenue from advertising money. And you can bet that that's not going to go away anytime soon.
Not at all.
As a matter of fact, we've seen the trend that Google ads occupy more and more space in many different search results. Now, that's good and bad. If you like advertising there, yay.
You're guaranteed to have a spot.
Yes, advertise that roofing installation or metal roof repair. Go for it. You know that it's not going to go away anytime soon, and you'll probably get good results from it. GMB is another great tool.
Yep. And that's a free tool that you can takes a little bit of time and gives your business a big boost.
And Google is constantly urging everyone to use it. So we should probably take the hint and use it as much as possible.
Just a little bit of a hint, right?
Yes. If you optimize your GMB, for instance, you're going to see much better results in your local search. You're going to maybe get those premium map pack spots. That's very good traffic for your website.
Yeah.
And traffic comes leads, leads become business, and business becomes revenue.
And that's awesome.
We love revenue. Yeah. So bottom line, focus on the elements that are going to be approved by Google. So PPC, GMB, organic optimization. Google likes to add those specialized organic listings now. Try to incorporate some of the schema code and FAQs and stuff that Google likes to see. That's going to please them, it's going to please their shareholders, and it's going to please the people that can find you way, way easier and give you business.
For sure.
Yes. So bottom line is, for our point now, don't go against Google shareholders. If they have something, if they want Google ads or they want GMB, or if Google wants other aspects of its many tools to succeed.
All the tools, so many.
You should definitely at least consider them, and you'll have a much easier time than if you didn't. All right, so that was 4 points. Let us quickly summarize them and we can end here. Number 1, Google wants to be liked.
This gives you many outlets in terms of resolving issues. If you have a problem, go ahead and take it to the masses, Twitter, Reddit, and they will hear you quickly and get it resolved.
Mm-hmm. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
For sure.
Yes. I'm not sure what the roofing version of that metaphor is, but I'm sure it's good.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Now, number 2, Google has a moral code, a way they like business to be done on search. So if you want to get good results, you want to jive with that way of doing business on search. So focus on great content, focus on optimizing your website and your GMB, and you'll get good results. Number 3,
Google is a mess. So in order to bolster yourself against potentially game-breaking core updates, make sure you have a very hardened and broad SEO strategy. Go ahead and put your business out there on your social media, your GMB, everything, and just make sure you build the best website possible that can weather the storm.
don't gamble on a gimmick.
Don't gamble on a gimmick.
If a marketing company is saying, hey, this secret new technology or secret new activity is driving results better than we've ever seen before, it's probably already on its way out the door as far as effectiveness goes.
For sure.
So don't gamble that way. Finally, Google has a boss just like anyone else, and that is its shareholders. From a humanitarian point of view, it's okay. Google's a business, and we appreciate them as much as any other day-to-day tool we see every day. However, you want to try to not go against those shareholders.
Nope. You want to use what products are best for you, but understand what is going on.
Yes. All right, key takeaways, and we will let them go. What do you think is the most important element or thought that a roofer can take away today?
I would say that you always have a place to have your voice heard, but also make sure you have that broad SEO strategy. Mm-hmm. You go ahead and you do offline marketing, online marketing, social media marketing, all of that to make sure you have the best strategy for your roofing business.
Absolutely. I would say when you're planning ahead and you're trying to think for the next few years what you need to do to be successful on search, broaden your horizons. Try to think of multiple channels that you can advertise and promote your business through, whether that's SEO, PPC, or maybe even stuff that's local specific. Try to keep experimenting and see what works for you, and you will notice much better and safer returns in the long run.
Right. And Roofing Webmasters is always here to help.
The plug.
The plug.
Yes. We would love to help you out, and we're ultimately concerned with making sure that you succeed, no matter what form of business that may take. All right. Thank you so much for listening in, and we will see you next time.